Project Sapient is a podcast meant to engage our brothers and sisters in the law enforcement and military communities in conversations that we all know we need to have. All opinions you'll hear are our own, are protected by our First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and in no way reflect or are meant to reflect the opinion of any specific agency, officer, or service member. Some opinions may be controversial. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy. Men?
Dude, this makes me want to fucking deadlift 900 pounds right now.
This makes you want to deadlift 900 pounds?
The song, man.
Well, I was going to say, you're deadlifting 900 fucking pounds every day anyway.
Oh, that's true.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, my man?
Project Sapient. Everybody check us out, projectsapient.org. Shoot us an email, projectsapient2020@gmail.com. We want to thank our thousands of listeners worldwide. Check out our awesome supporters and sponsors. Till Valhalla, AAA Police Supply, HAVOK Journal, our partners at the Profiles and HAVOK podcast, Fit Cops, 22 Mohawks, and ODkit. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms. Guys, thanks for making us the #1 military and law enforcement podcast on the planet. We have a lot to talk about today. Iman's got a great article on HAVOK Journal.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me, brother.
So, I wrote this. HAVOK Journal graciously published it once again. They're good people over there. But so, been thinking a lot. You know, what makes a confident cop? You know, what is it about a cop who is confident? I mean, and this not just exclusive, to law enforcement, obviously, but in a business sense, even like a businessman, right?
Right.
A businesswoman.
How dare you use man and woman?
I know. Sorry. I'm trying to be a little more, again, my therapist, Dr. McGillicuddy, is trying to keep me PC as much as possible. So anyways, they go on. So what makes someone confident? A confident doctor, a confident cop, so obviously this is tailored more towards our fellow law enforcement brothers and sisters. So biggest thing I found, I've been training for a while, other police officers, cops across the Commonwealth, stuff like that. And you come to realize that, I always go back talking about our bullshit quals that we do, firearms. So
can I make a statement?
Yeah.
In the last 20 years, they have gotten better at trying to get people to shoot.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, it's an elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, no, they have tried. I will give them that. But so just, we're talking about past. Now I'm seeing a lot of really good training coming out of the Mass Police Training Council on our end with some like outstanding training. So this is talking more countrywide of what we see and what goes on.
Right.
So this is going to be more also, I'll talk to our civilian readers too, to kind of also make them aware this is what actually really happens, which that's what we've always done on this podcast is I'll write the article, talk about what's really goes on in the inner workings of police and stuff like that, just to be transparent,
Right. And we always bring in the civilian population.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to, I hate using the word, but educate them a little bit.
Well, that's
what I mean?
And we've always said because, it was our own fault because we're so insulated.
Right.
Versus actually talking about these things openly. So question I have for the civilian reader, how often do you think police train on tactics, firearms, first aid, CPR, use of force? Do you think it's once a year, twice a year? We all know the answer to that, us cops. And you'll be surprised how often police officers train in this profession. Most of the time, it's a check-in-the-box type training just to say a cop is qualified, quote-unquote, in firearms, tactics, and whatever else. To me, qualifying and proficiency are two completely separate things, which I think me and you have talked about it numerous
100%.
times. Okay, and that's the thing. I think most will agree with that statement. I'm going to give you, the reader, a glimpse into training of law enforcement officers, and mostly it's around this concept of qualifying. Like, so if you, again, the next paragraph I talk about, if you listen to the podcast, which you guys know, at this point, one of the biggest things that we talk about is proper training of police officers. And some police departments are great. They invest in their officers, but most do not. And you can tell. You can tell by the product of officers that get on the job and don't receive that kind of training, just the academy, and that's it. You push them along into the street, do an FTO program. I went to a recent training. Some FTO programs, which is to the non-police listener, it's a field training officer. Which when you graduate the academy, it's kind of like a right seat, left seat type thing. Like you just learn the proper procedures at your respective police department, then you move on from there. But the field training officers, some parts I didn't know this either, but I guess some of it is like a week long, and here you go.
That's it.
And that's it.
Wow.
So obviously not enough, So, and here's the thing: while most do not, most budgets that states, cities, and towns give to police do not allocate enough money for training. They just don't. I've seen both ends of the spectrum, though. For the most part, though, most police departments ensure their officers are qualified. But I ask, are they proficient?
So, I got a question that I want to ask to a lot of our listeners, too, because we have a vast range of listeners from sheriff's departments and police departments. We know there's a distinction. Yeah. Right. And on the East Coast, police departments are more prevalent. Yep. Usually those are appointed positions that are the chiefs. They're not elected. Yep. Right. And the police powers come from different parts. Yep. So I know sheriff's departments, like the sheriff is the ultimate law of the land. Yes. In his territory. Yep. Right. Yep. He usually isn't appointed. He's elected by the people, which means he answers to the people. Yep. Doesn't mean he answers to the city council or the mayor or a good example of that is a video that I had seen, that awesome chief down in, or the awesome sheriff down in like Florida or something.
There's a couple of them in Florida.
Where he's like, you shoot at my guys, we're going to shoot back 355 times. Type of, you know what I mean? He was the one that came out and said that in a video. And I was like, holy shit. I never made that distinction. Yeah. So I'm curious to see, I know we have a lack of funding in major cities, East Coast, West Coast, because of city council politics, mayor politics. You don't need that kind of money. You know what I mean?
So I know a buddy of mine who's in Washington State, who's part of a sheriff's department. Yeah. Their budget got cut by the council, city councils. Really? Yeah. So as much as the sheriff is elected, he or she still has to answer to the county council or however they work it. I want our listeners, though, because that might just be how Washington works. Yeah. I want our listeners to tell us how that shit works. Yeah. Yeah. So, if you guys email us, projectsapient2020@gmail.com, I'd love to know how the sheriff kind of, basically that distinction right there. Right. But again, like I know Washington State, a sheriff's department, their budget got cut, you know, so by I don't know if this the county council, I don't know how exactly worked, but I do remember him saying their budget got cut. Okay. So because of defund, that's all it was. Yeah, exactly. So in the Army, I'm going to go back to my Army days. All right. In the Army, when you attend boot camp, basic training, you're handed a soldier's handbook as part of your in-processing. That handbook details all the core tasks in which officers must be proficient in, not qualify in. You've got, I think I've showed it to you. It's like this encyclopedia. Yeah. And this is for the lowest ranking private. Never mind as you go up in rank and some other responsibilities and duties, or if you go to specialty units, Rangers, Special Forces, Air Assault School, Airborne School, everyone has their own handbook. So the Army lays it all out, everything from weapons maintenance to tactics to just everything, and every private knows what they are expected to be trained in. That's the biggest thing. Policing is not the same. Sure, there are core tasks that you're expected to qualify in, but there isn't a proficiency standard. They give you a range. Right. Like, you got to score above an 80 or whatever, but you're just shooting at a target that doesn't move. Excuse me. And you're shooting max distance in a pistol is 25 yards in some places. They've cut it down to 15 now, right? No, yeah. They cut 15, but when I was with the Federal Task Force, it was 25 yards. Even my department, I got to give it to them. We were doing, I think, 10 shots from the 25. Yeah, that's the So at least, it's not about distance, but at least you learn and you train that way, right? You train as you fight. So, and here's the thing, that there isn't really a proficiency standard, nor is there enough time or training available to have each officer proficient in their core tasks. So what are some of the core tasks? Firearms, defensive driving, CQB, which is close quarter combat. Am I allowed to say combat or no?
B's battle, right?
Close
so is combat
battle
better than battle?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying not to. Close quarter, feel good touch, we'll call it.
Giggity.
Okay. Defensive tactics, less than lethal weapons, constitutional law, criminal law, within your jurisdiction, use of force, code of conduct, radio communication, counter ambush techniques, felony motor vehicle takedowns, introductory psychology, basic negotiation, behavioral profiling, traffic stops, proper handcuffing methods, and physical fitness. Do we think a majority of these are in a handbook somewhere?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Other than policy procedure within your own respective police departments, they do have a code of conduct. They do have this. They do have that. But there's not something at a police academy level where when a recruit shows up is handed a fucking handbook, encyclopedia long, saying these are your core tasks.
You must follow these tasks.
Yes.
So can I interject for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Reading that paragraph of yours, I mean, the core task police officers, firearms, defensive driving, all this stuff that you listed.
Yep.
Right. From most departments, like the major ones on the East Coast, they started in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of these other departments started a lot later.
Yeah.
So from sheriff's departments to police departments, there was a lot of catching up to societal needs.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You had I'm thinking like of a small town in the 1950s, Midwest had 3,000 people in the population and 4 cops.
Yep.
They needed to catch up to what was going on to everything around the country, right?
Yeah.
So you got to think, and I'm not dogging the police departments, but I'm trying to be somewhat reasonable in how backwards we are.
Are you we just had a conversation a second ago. You're not reasonable.
I'm not.
That's
offline. Something that's offline, you guys. No, I'm not reasonable.
Anyways.
Go on.
Go on.
That was a great little fucking dig to me, too, asshole.
Hey, you're the one that used unreasonable. I'm like, hey.
Wow.
But anyways, so, no, I get
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The small town chief isn't going to look at, okay, I got 6 guys on my department. I don't need to train them in CQB because this is 1950s America. There's all, hot dogs and American flags here.
Yeah.
We don't need to do any of this shit. I kind of think, and I hate to bring it up, but I kind of think that's where Uvalde was.
So,
do you see what I'm saying?
No, I got you. So again, so Army, Marines, we kind of have this. So you're in the Army, right? You're going to be a truck mechanic, right? Yeah, you work on all these combat skills, all that stuff, but in reality, you're a mechanic, non-combat type job.
Right.
But you are still required all the time in training to know your core tasks, no matter what job you have.
As a mechanic, are you still required to be proficient with your rifle?
Yes. Yep. You get tested. You get tested all the time, especially NCO boards. It doesn't matter.
But again, trying to be reasonable.
Yeah. Okay.
The military.
Yeah.
The military, our U.S. Armed Forces have a specific task.
Yes.
They and tell me if I'm wrong. Have they had to adjust outside of what they're doing, what we've been doing in the Middle East and all that stuff, right? And we've talked about it in the show. But the primary tasks, the rifle, the cleaning, the uniforms, all that stuff, has that changed?
No, the only thing that changes is if you get a new weapon, now you add it to your core tasks.
To proficiencies.
Right. If you get a new uniform, well, now you need to figure out the dress standards and all that stuff and to make sure your uniform is up to the standard. Right. So here's the thing. During the Army, when you're training, they spell out very simple tasks, conditions, and standards. I heard they even changed tasks now to something else or actions or something. But in the end, task, conditions, and standards.
Have we added feelings yet?
We probably have, especially with the new generation that's coming up. Make sure you check that box. But that's the thing, though. The core tasks will always be the core tasks, no matter what you do, where you go. In the end, to me, as a cop, as a street level cop, you need to be proficient in your core tasks. It doesn't matter if you're in small town America to big city departments.
So we need to, and as much as I don't want to militarize the police.
No, it's not about militarizing.
Right.
Yeah.
But we need to somehow integrate that into policing.
Yes. It's about standards. It's about integrating a standard.
Right.
A set standard across.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, you got close to 1 million cops out there, tens of thousands of agencies across America. Each standard is different. State to state.
Some are vastly different.
Yeah. State to state, town to town, even,
right.
Vastly different. Right. And what the plus side is, again, think big army. I can go to any other unit.
Right.
And still know my core tasks. It's not going to matter.
I mean, I get the intricacies of being stateside here, and you have different laws and different ways of doing things in different states, but I think we can come up with.
Here's the thing, SWAT, right? Let's go SWAT. I know for a fact I can go to LAPD, jump in a stack,
get in a sack,
and go in.
Yep.
You could do the same.
Right.
I could go to to big city Boston,
right.
Go in their stack and still know what I'm doing.
Right.
I did that actually a while back. I did a training with in North Carolina with Vector. I helped them out to go do some training down there in North Carolina, and it was a couple different agencies, captains and above. They were checking out the shield and all that. And we just stacked up to do room clearing just so they feel, what it looks like. We all stacked up and did the room clearing.
Right.
SWAT guys from all different regions, but it's a standard.
It's a standard. But you're going to have minor little differences, right? Like leg
minor.
squeezes or shoulder squeezes, or we even did the rifle raises sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but those minute changes are just minute, but the overall core task, we knew what it was. Is the same. So that's what I mean. Like, these core tasks need to be standardized across.
Right.
So, and here's the thing. So all that is, and then moving on in the reading. So what I described to you is a basic recruit academy. Academies range anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on which part of U.S. you're from, which I'm like, I'm still fucking thrown off by the 6 week thing. After the academy, depending on which part of the U.S., you may not train again. If you train, it'll be a yearly or biannual weapons qual and a yearly in service. In service is typically a week long to recertify or qualify officers in some of the core tasks. That's all you're doing is qualifying.
Right.
Check the box.
Right.
All that is required a police department to do is, again, qualify their officers, not to demonstrate proficiency in any of the core tasks. I'm a firearms instructor, and you know as well as I do, like, every time me and you talk, like, oh boy, here we go, firearms training, and my blood pressure goes through the roof,
Right.
Because I've come up to, some officers that have come up to the firing line can barely hit the target, and it's friggin' static right in front of you. So researchers have, and this is a quote I got, so researchers analyzed 149 real-life officer-involved shootings recorded over 15 years by Dallas PD. Nearly half of these encounters, officers firing at a single suspect delivered complete inaccuracy. That is, they missed the target entirely. In 15 incidents, the total number of rounds fired could not be determined. But in the 134 cases where researchers could establish that figure, they calculated the incredible hit rate at merely 35%.
Wow.
In other words, more than 6 out of 10 rounds were missed. The reason why they couldn't find the inaccuracies because who knows where the friggin' that round went. So, unfortunately, the study says the data does not provide a clear picture as to what happened with these errant rounds.
Right.
But at worst, they struck other officers or innocent bystanders for all they know. So
that's part of a little bit of the stress inoculation too. Yeah. Because you have the oh shit factor in a lot of the OISs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. You have I hate to say it, but you have a lot of the pray and spray.
Yeah.
Or spray and pray.
Spray and
pray. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? When you go from that 0 miles an hour to 100 and the pistol comes out because that's your muscle memory and you just start squeezing them off.
Yeah.
We need a little bit more training in that aspect.
That's the thing. So the research team, Dr. Christopher Donner and Nicole Popovich of the Criminal Justice Department at Loyola University in Chicago, note that although the amount and the quality of firearms training has received by officers over the last century has increased considerably, there appears to have little improvement in shooting accuracy.
Wow, that's interesting.
Which, here's the thing, it's so true because that's, again, it goes back to You're qualifying. You're not being proficient, right? And that's the thing where when we train officers now, if you're shooting nice and slow cadence and you're like this, well, I'm going to tell you to step it up.
Right.
You know, if you're shooting, well, no one can see this, basically a dime size hole at 3 yards. I'm going to tell you, you know what? You're too comfortable.
Right.
Shoot faster. Get uncomfortable.
Get a little stressed. Stress inoculation.
Exactly.
Right.
And you'll start to see again when the pucker factor really happens, your target is going to grow where you hit, but it's going to be accurate. You're going to hit where you want it. You know, you're going to aim, you're going to hit. I've seen it numerous times, even in combat, right? You're going to hit whatever is in front of you.
Right.
All right. And again, the typical range for officers in a ambush, counter ambush type scenario is anywhere between 7 yards and in for an encounter for
yeah. I mean, what I'm seeing here with these last few paragraphs that you read is that we know that a lot of these departments have been doing the qualifications as a checkbox, as a cover your ass type of thing.
Yes.
We qualified them.
Yeah.
Now it's starting to catch up.
Oh, big time.
Now it's starting to catch up because simply qualifying is getting other people killed, innocent bystanders or other cops.
6 out of 10 rounds, the 6 rounds that went wherever,
right?
Who know? You know, that's an issue. We saw it at Boston Marathon.
Oh,
with a lot of ARs. We know that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's crazy. You know, so what this means to me is officers are not proficient in the use of a firearm. Proficiency is very different from qualifying. I'll go over the firearms qualification that officers must accomplish yearly. Keep in mind that what I'm going to discuss is a standard firearms qual. Some police departments train their officers a lot more than others, and this is just a simple one that I'm giving.
Yeah,
basic firearms qual. Depending on the size of the department and state requirements, typical firearm quals are 50 rounds. Distance varies 3 to 15 yards. Officers shoot at stationary target. This qualifies the officer. That's it. This does not test proficiency. Most cops only do the yearly minimum, and that's it. A small percentage of that will go to a shooting range to work on fundamentals and become proficient.
Yep.
Proficiency is measured through real life, through real firearms training. It tests every officer's physical, psychological, and physiological state. Treat firearms training as it should be. Firearms training. So when you see a posting for firearms training, it's qualifying.
Yep.
It's not firearms training. Firearms training is you set up barriers, you put a car in the middle there, you got to work around the car, or you shoot through the window of the car, you know, at a target inside the car.
What do you think about low light shooting, and including strobe lights?
Oh, absolutely.
Traffic stop type of scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely.
All that stuff. That's rarely ever done.
It is.
Rarely ever done.
But again, it's that whole thing, train like you fight, right? That way. So it's interesting. I went to a training recently run by the MPTC. Phenomenal job. It was, it's called Diffuse, but it's not like, it's basically, I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's more about stress inoculation, not stress inoculation, but
stress inducing,
kind of doing the job from the point of view of the supervisor. Now that's kind of what this training was more for, but they do have patrol level things where it's actually scenario based, and it's scenario based where the whole idea behind it is if you've trained it a couple times, and let's say you deal with it in real life, now it's imprinted in your head. Yeah. Just like think of football, think of hockey, think of basketball. Some of these, we run plays all the time during practice, right? For a reason. That way, when the game actually happens, you know, like football, when I play football, we watch films, right? NFL, you know, not NFL, but the other team films, right? A week before the game. Then we practice plays just to get ready for it.
Nobody's ever going to hold a football just by reading about it.
Exactly. SWAT. Before we hit a house, we rehearse. We check the floor plan. We get intel. We rehearse the floor plan over, and then we.
How much rehearsal do special ops guys in the military do?
Oh, tons. Months. Here's the thing. An operation we did out in Iraq, 2 months of prep before we actually hit the location. In
generalities, when the SEAL teams hit UBL's house.
Oh, that was rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed.
Over and over.
They knew they may have not known the target, but they knew the layout.
A lot of these things cost money, right? Yeah. And I get it. But that's what a lot of the civilian population should be seeing and giving to the chiefs, to the commissioners, to the sheriffs. You should start thinking about, range time costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of departments don't have their own ranges. But you know what? See what kind of, do a little bit of an experiment. One state, we want to get a state to spend $1 million to put 5 small little shooting ranges inside a police department. It's not going to cost a ton of money.
No.
Put 5 little ranges and then give officers a half an hour once a week to be able to go shoot.
Yeah.
See what kind of proficiency changes happen.
I know some departments that do have those indoor ranges, and I would love for my department to have one, to be even indoor, just something available where I can just go before work or after work, blow off a couple rounds just so I can test and make sure, boom, okay, I'm good,
I guarantee you, and tell me what you think, but if you do something like that and have it easily available for officers, you're going to see proficiency skyrocket.
Oh, absolutely, because it's right there. And here's the thing. We all know, us cops, we get lazy. Like, if I got to drive 10 minutes to a police range, I'm not going to do it.
I know. Dude, my range is 45 minutes away.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like when you're a busy and you whatever, and you're like, man, I got to get to the range. I want to, especially as a proficient cop who tries to do a lot. If you're busy and, I would love, again, to just go down to the basement of the PD.
Yes.
We have an indoor range, put up a target, and just practice your mag change. Simple as that. Couple rounds, mag change. Just get proficient with that. That's 100%. The whole idea with proficiency. You're not like, to me, I fucking hate, again, you know how I feel about quals. They fucking suck. I hate quals. It needs to be like actual firearms training. Now, if you want to do if the state and cities, whatever, want to do a feel good, like, okay, fine, we'll do a quick qual, but then real firearms training, that to me, okay, I'll do the check in the box 50 rounds for your bullshit, but to test your officer's proficiency, that's a whole different type of test.
And I'm not dogging I'm not dogging any other technologies out there.
Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of technologies and stuff have a very good place in police training.
Yeah.
Like the Chimera project that has a very exceptional place in our training. But nothing, tell me what you think about this statement. Nothing will replace getting a pistol down range and feeling the bang.
Oh, absolutely.
Nothing will replace that.
You got the smells, you got everything that comes together.
The reverberation through your body, everything.
Yeah, no.
We need to focus on that as a fundamental and then also grow the technologies around everything.
Exactly. And again, like for me, what is proficiency? I think I go into it in the article even more. Let's switch gears for a minute, or even actually before we switch gears, I want to go into the military on how the military tests proficiency. And I'm just doing weapons. So if depending on which type of unit you're in, you have a specific amount of weapon systems. I was in artillery, so I had everything from big fucking cannons to an M9 Beretta, right? They would test. So you go before a board, right? If I want to get promoted, let's say to sergeant, you go before an NCO board, it's called. And part of the NCO board is kind of like an assessment center. Part of it is you have to, they take you into a room, you're timed to take apart your weapon completely, put it back together. Every weapon system has a specific time. So as you go through, you better hit that standard. Otherwise, they're going to no-go you. You're not proficient. Next. So you fail because that's all they give you. Either a go or a no-go. Yep. There is no range. There is no this. You either do it or you don't. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. You test proficiency, and the time is there to induce that stress. That's again, the only reason it's there.
The military has also been doing it for a very long time in a very standardized way. Yeah. Imagine trying to get some of these cops. Imagine trying to get some of these chiefs to do something like that.
Here's the thing. I bet you, I don't know, think of your department, my department. If we put our respective pistols and ARs and whatever else we have in our closet and test our officers, hey, you got 1 minute, you got a minute to take apart your pistol. You got a minute to take up, they'll fall apart. I would say, not dogging anyone, I would say 60 to 75% would have trouble. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's lack of training. Yep. And again, it's not so much like, I wouldn't even say lack of training, lack of training for proficiency. You're training for qualifying. You see it all the time as a range instructor. How many times when somebody has an issue
misfire, something, a stovepipe, something.
Yeah.
And the sheer panic that goes through people.
That's why, like, I got to keep yelling, especially if we're shooting on the move. And I tell them, if you're fucking weapon, whatever, keep fucking moving.
How many times have you had to put your hand on somebody's back and keep pushing them?
Tons, because that sheer panic of a weapon failure. And that's why, and what's funny is even the simplest, right? When I have them, when we have to do rifle transition to pistol.
Yeah.
To us, like me and you and all the, a bunch of proficient cops, bam, bam, get pistol, bam, bam, and you're done. So during the quals, at some point, you've got the rifle, and at some point, it's purposely that there's a certain round count where you're going to run dry, and you got to transition to your pistol.
Yep. No mag change, right.
Yeah, but what I see, and I'm sure you see it, they go right to the mag change. They don't even transition to their pistol. Because in their mind, they're like, oh, shit, they start fumbling with the rifle, and I'm behind them.
Throws everything off.
Yeah, I'm behind. And here, that's a simple stress-induced exercise. Simple.
Right.
Like for you and me, I mean, we do it all the time. We go, boom, boom, oh, I'm out. All right, transition, bam, bam. Then get the rifle, get the mag out, put it in. Now you're good to go.
A lot of the things that we need to have a lot of the leadership realize is that there's no shame in knowing that your officers aren't proficient in these things.
Exactly.
There's no shame in it. The shame comes if you do know and you haven't done anything about it.
Yeah.
Uvalde.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We know what the issues are. You've identified them.
Yeah.
Start doing what you need to do to get people proficient in these things.
100%. And that's the thing is, to me, again, that simple stress-induced where you run dry is such a huge example for me of the lack of proficiency in officers. And it's not like one or two officers that run into it. I could have an entire line of officers at the range, and they would all fumble with their fucking rifles while I'm yelling at them, transition. And they don't hear you. They don't hear you. It's like because they are so tunnel vision.
It's the exclusion, auditory.
And it's funny to me. And it's not like they're getting rounds thrown at them, right? It's fucking crazy. Like, they get that auditory exclusion just from that alone. And then when they actually pick up that you're yelling, telling them to transition, you get the fucking fumbling of the rifle. Now that you got to get them, they're going to the handgun, they're fumbling around. I'm like, whoa.
And it becomes dangerous.
It becomes dangerous where I got to be like, hey, slow the fuck down. Like, so again, with a proficient cop, when I see them out on a firing line, I fucking love it because I don't have to do shit. And you know what? I can actually step it up a little more where I can give them time standards. And here's the thing.
Working their limits, doing a bunch of things, right?
Here's the thing. How often have we actually worked time limits into shooting?
Very rare.
Very rare. I see it at SWAT all the time. And that was more competition between us,
right? And
that just to hey, fuck you, fucking do slow, whatever. But for the average patrol officer, time is not really a factor because if the minute we start introducing time, they're gonna start fucking up even more. Which I am all for it. There's a reason why I want time. I'd love to do time standards. Again, in the military, that's what it is. When we're out at the range, there's time standard to everything.
The purpose of training is to fuck up at it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When I did when I ran a week-long active shooter training at my department, and, again, I'm not expecting SWAT operators who can do entries just like that, all that stuff. But, to me, the biggest concern is your deep angles when you enter a room. Where are your danger? Where are your threats? And all of that. And, a couple of them would do the entry and be like, oh, fuck. I'm like, all right, hey, this is training. I expect to fuck up. I'd rather you fuck up in training than fuck up in the real world.
You, Iman, were not born an operator. There was a time in your life where you didn't know how to enter a room.
Oh, I had no fucking clue.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
And there's no shame in that.
No.
The shame comes when you've been a cop for 20 years. You haven't been trained. It's not on you. I get there's a lot of things that you have to do yourself to be proficient.
Yeah.
But things like this, specialty trainings like these, it's not a shame to go ask your chief and be like, hey, we need some room clearing training.
Yeah.
Can you bring in some people? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because again, at one point didn't know how to hold a rifle.
I was a fucking psychology major in fucking college. I had no fucking clue about any of this shit.
Exactly.
First time I held a fucking gun was in the Army.
So exactly, it's kind of like with motorcycle training.
Yeah.
A lot of motorcycle cops that listen to this. When I went to my motorcycle training, I had never sat on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And the instructors actually loved it because they were like, we like that. No bad habits.
Yeah.
We're going to train you what we think is right.
Yeah.
And I think that it made me a decent rider. It took me, even after I passed the course and everything, it took me about a year.
And that's a hard course.
It's a really hard course.
It's one of the hardest courses in policing.
But I went into it with a little bit of an advantage because I saw even guys that, ride Harleys on the weekends and they were like, he's never ridden before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No pat on my back. I'm trying to say that there was no shame. I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Oh, no, listen.
I'll train.
The first time I held an M16, again, I'm aging myself. I had M16s.
Yeah.
The first time I held an M16 was at basic. I had no fucking clue how to even take it apart. What am I supposed to do? What is like...
First time I held a rifle was in SWAT school.
What the fuck? I'm like, what is this? And what's, again, drill sergeants and firearms trainers, they again love the guy, the soldier or the officer who's never ever shot a gun, never held a rifle, because you know what? Because now you're coachable.
Did you ever have to? My SWAT school was a long time ago, and I remember the first time holding and using an MP5. Did you ever use the MP5?
No, I was never issued an MP5. No,
I was for a short period of time, and I fucking loved it, and then they got rid of them.
Yeah, well, yeah,
because they were too scary.
Well, M4s and M16s are, whatever.
There's no logic behind it.
No, there is not. But that's the thing. So when I, again, going back to the Army, when you're testing for proficiency, that's a test of proficiency. When you have time standards and strict time standards. Yep. When I went to DEA SRT school 2 weeks in Virginia, when I was on the task force, it was awesome. The range, they had specific time limits for everything, and I loved it. I loved the challenge.
So that's a federal. Do you see where that's coming from, though? It's a federal thing, right? It's probably coming from background in the military being federal.
Exactly. Like so the guys who were running it were their DEA fast unit, so they're the special ops for DEA. They have those time standards, and they did bring it in from. I think they were trained by the Navy.
There you go.
In BUDS, they did like a modified BUDS to basically get into the unit. Yeah. So that's where all those standards came from. Is time. Yeah. And here's the thing: I haven't done that since the military. I loved it. Yeah, because here's the thing: I trained to that standard, right? So before going down there, I was told there's going to be time limits. They're going to every operator there had a trainer right behind him. Everyone.
Amazing.
And amazing. If you do not get that time, they will tell you stop or that round doesn't count.
Think about that little bit of an investment, because that's an investment. Oh yeah. Having an instructor behind you, every single guy. Yep. That costs money. Oh yeah. That's an investment. Think about how much that saves you down the road.
Oh my God. Here's the thing. Again, if you want to talk investment, liability, whatever, where you have an officer who's extreme, again, not militarizing, right? But you have an officer who's proficient at their core tasks, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. How confident is that cop going to be when they're about to do a Terry stop, right? Threshold inquiry, or an active shooter, or because you know what, that cop is confident in their training and abilities.
I want you to get into this next paragraph here because I have something to say about it.
Okay, so it was the one where switch gears to public sees all kinds of different police vehicles, right? Yep. So I've been issued all kinds of different police cars, right? And I'm sure civilians have no idea, which I'm going to throw this out there. I was trained to drive a Crown Vic.
God, I miss them.
No, I do too. So, so it was a week long. It's called Emergency Vehicle Operation Course, EVOC. The goal of the course was for the officer to learn how to to handle the police car. What it can do, can't do. I haven't done any of that since the academy. Yes. And I've been issued different types, Impalas, fucking Tauruses, Explorers now. Yeah. So again, there's no training. They throw you in the car and here you go.
I went from, again, Ford Crown Victoria, just like you, which I remember even my EVOC class being one of the most fun things in the academy.
It was awesome. I mean, you're on a racetrack and you just fucking tear it up. It's awesome.
So I went from that to when we went to SWAT. Without giving up info, we went to Tahoes.
Okay.
Tahoes that weren't made for the job, meaning There was too much weight in the back. Like when you were driving these things, you know what driving a rear wheel drive vehicle is. These were rear wheel drive. They weren't even all wheel drive Tahoes.
That's genius for New England.
Right. Rear wheel drive Tahoes with too much weight in the back.
Yeah.
You're blasting around the city because there's 4 of your cars for an entire fucking city. Right. I never got trained in that.
Yeah.
Never. Then 10 years of that go by. I got used to it. Thank God nothing bad ever happened.
Yeah.
I go back to patrol and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I get in an exploder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't drive this.
Yeah.
And then I remember the first time going lights and sirens somewhere, and I'm like, I don't know what this car can do. I got used to it.
So
but
there are cars, I know, like my police, all the police departments, that there are Explorers, and each of them is different, though. Yeah. And it's like, so I didn't know this. I guess some of them have certain buttons at certain spots to be able to even put the car in transmission.
Yes.
I'm like, can you imagine now, let's say you're taking an overtime shift and you're assigned that cruiser, and all of a sudden you get the oh shit call and you're like, why is it going in drive? Yeah, you got
I drove a new Explorer maybe 2-3 weeks ago, right?
Okay.
I drove a new Explorer and I had a fixed post type of thing where I had to go sit there for 2 hours.
Okay.
I'm driving. I'm like, oh, this thing's pretty cool. I've never driven one like this before. It's pretty cool because old timer. I like to take the old cars because nobody gives a fuck about the old cars, right?
Yeah.
So I'm driving and I get to where I need to be. And about 20 minutes later, I'm sitting there reading something on my phone and the car felt like it shut off. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah. The car just died. It's brand new.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So I turn the ignition. Nothing happens. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm like sitting there, like 5 minutes go by, and I'm like, oh, now I gotta call a tow truck. I gotta this,
notify the sergeant,
notify the bosses, this and that, and then the car just explodes back into life. Whoa! And I'm like, what the fuck was that? So I call my buddy, and he goes, "Oh yeah, it's the new electric vehicles that we have."
Oh, so okay,
it's hybrids or whatever.
Yeah.
It shuts down and comes back on. But dude, it was like an explode. I almost reached for my pistol. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Throw some rounds into the engine. It came alive.
Fucking Transformers, right? Decepticon.
Yeah.
But I legit, it comes back to this what you're talking about. Yeah. Nobody told me that.
No, that's the thing. So that to me is just such a big issue right there where why do we so for me, like even certain police, like I had a Charger for some time and I was like, oh yeah, this thing is fucking fast as hell, but it was not built to be a police car.
Right.
Like, it was all fucked. Like
it's like taking a Corvette to be a police car.
Exactly. No. And those things probably lasted maybe 2-3 years and that's about it, because again, you're a city cop tearing around in the city in a fucking Charger that doesn't really belong.
It's not made for it.
Yeah, it doesn't belong on the street. Like it belongs on the highway maybe, but not so much the street. So that's the thing, and that's the thing where our civilian population listeners need to realize we don't get, like in the military. Again, I go back to the military. Any piece of equipment that I was issued, I was trained in.
Yeah. Yep.
So I had, again, military, they give you your own military driver's license, which I find hilarious because, they get you proficient to be driving 18-wheelers,
right?
5-ton trucks and this, that, the other. Yet I'll never forget when I got medically discharged, I went to the registry with my military driver's license to see if I can get CDL, since I fucking drove every large
They were like,
truck. No, because it doesn't transfer. I was like, that's fucking bullshit. But
that's the same in Massachusetts, right? Once you're in SWAT, or I think it's even a police officer, you can drive just about anything.
Yeah.
I want to give you another example of these new cars thing.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I'm walking out. There's a female officer. She's like, hey, Pete, come here. What's up? How do you get in the trunk?
Oh, I think I know about this one now.
And I'm like, there's a button. She goes, okay. So there's an unlock button.
Yep.
And then there's a button in the back underneath like the Ford emblem.
Yeah.
Right? Where would it normally be, Iman? In the middle of the fucking thing, right? It's not there.
Yeah.
So the girl is like, I don't know how to get in the trunk. And I'm sitting there thinking, she had the foresight to try and think about it before. Yeah. What if she needed...
What's the thing?
In an emergency situation.
Exactly. If she needed to get into the trunk because, let's say she needs to get the first aid bag because an infant is fucking...
Something.
Whatever. She's going to be so flustered.
She's not going to be able to open the fucking trunk. And imagine the liability that is.
Yep.
But imagine what that would look like on camera too.
Well, not just on camera, and the trauma that poor female officer would go through, or any officer would go through. I mean, at that point, I'd smash a window to get written up. I don't give a fuck.
And then you'd look like an ad. But imagine that on camera too.
No,
imagine the public seeing, he couldn't get in the fucking trunk.
Yeah, I know.
That's not that officer's fault.
No. Again, it goes back to proficiency training. It goes back to, if you are to be issued a brand new gun, you need to be proficient at it.
Yes.
Qualify. We got, we've issued new guns, whatever, but now it's about proficiency. Take that gun apart, put it back together. Like me, I trained, it's a new gun. I mean, I have it with me right now, but unholster, put it back in a holster. Unholster, just get used to the feel of a brand new pistol.
Right.
And just know the ins and outs. I mean, a Glock's a Glock. All the Glocks are pretty much built the same way, but still, you still train, practice, know the limitations of your weapons. Like one of the Uvalde things where the officer who was at 140 yards had the gunman in his sights and had to request permission to fire.
Blows my mind.
That, I believe, I don't know where that comes from. I believe that's a training issue. That's something going on, because I have never heard, ever heard an active shooter response that you need to request permission to fire at a shooter. That is but part of the AAR was, because he didn't take the shot, one of the AR was the officer aware of the effective range of his or her rifle? Were they, did they know, basically, do they know their own weapons platform? Are they proficient in making that shot? But here's the reality. Most police departments do not train at distance shootings unless you're SWAT, sniper, whatever. But why not train like that? The max, again, the private, back to the military, the basic youngest 18-year-old private is able to take down a target at 300 yards because he or she need to be proficient in that rifle, because that's part of our proficiency quals. We need to demonstrate that we can hit a target at 300 meters, iron sights, not even scoped, iron sights. The Marine Corps, 500 meters. Iron sights, no scope, just to show the proficiency of that shooter.
And what was the cost?
That cost is they lost the initiative to kill or distract the bad guy, and he went into that school and killed 19 kids, I believe. Yeah.
It's insanity to me.
That is the cost of the lack of confidence, the lack of training, the lack of proficiency. The lack 100%. Of whatever, the request to permission to fire.
Oh my God, that annoys me so bad.
That, when I read that, I was like, you just lost the initiative. You just lost the battle. But right when that happened.
I don't understand. I mean, it's like I said earlier, too. There's no shame in knowing that your department isn't proficient.
No, but do something about it.
Shame on you if you know. Fucking shame on you if you know and you don't do anything about it.
Yep.
Shame on you, because 19 kids can die.
Exactly.
Or one kid.
And it goes back to the core tasks and being proficient. And here's the thing. In the end, there are core tasks that officers must be proficient in. Qualifying is not enough. Qualifying is a CYA for police departments, for cities, for towns, to show that an officer can shoot at a target. Big fucking whoop. The real test is proficiency. And with proficiency comes confidence, and a confident cop is a capable one.
Do not mistake in that last line, which I love.
Yep.
Do not mistake in that with arrogance.
Exactly.
Because the arrogant cop can be just as dangerous as a non-confident cop.
Exactly. Just know the difference in the definitions. A confident cop is a capable cop. An arrogant 100%. Cop is just as dangerous, like you said, as a cop that's not confident. 100
fucking percent. Dude, I love this.
Yeah.
What a great fucking article.
Yeah.
You want to give them a taste of what we're doing next time?
Yeah, so a lot of ARs have come out for Uvalde. Myself and Pete are going to dig into these ARs and give you guys a Cliff Notes in-depth, well, not so much Cliff Notes, but we're going to go into an in-depth discussion about it, and look for it at HAVOK Journal. It's going to be published soon. If you guys want a preview of the discussion, it's going to be probably by the weekend it'll be published.
So we're going to take what you do for HAVOK, we're going to tear it to shreds and build anger into it.
Pretty much.
I love it.
Like usual.
Guys, check us out, projectsapient.org. Email us, projectsapient2020@gmail.com. Thanks to our thousands of listeners worldwide. Check out our awesome supporters. Till Valhalla, AAA Police Supply, HAVOK Journal, our partners at the Profiles in HAVOK podcast, Fit Cops, 22 Mohawks, and ODkit. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We love you. Stay safe.
Stay sapient.
I'm gonna sing a song for Iman.
I'm telling you, this is gonna be a hit track.
Just keep leaving. Fucking people like this shit, right?
I know, right?